So you're getting ready to start teaching and you're in your 50s. What should you be doing to make the most out of your retirement here in Washington State? So in this video, I'm going to give you kind of the ins and outs of all the different options you have for your retirement savings as well as your medical benefits. So if you are getting a late start here in Washington State, this video should serve as a guide of the best ways to proceed forward so you can do more research and ultimately make the best decisions for you. So the very first thing you need to do if you are starting teaching in Washington is you need to know which pension plan you're on. Every school district employee has a state pension. You're either going to be on what they call option 2 or option 3, or TRS 2, TRS 3, PERS 2, PERS 3, one of those two options. They work a little bit differently, so it's important to know which plan you're on so you can research and look up how they work. I did full video tutorials on how each of those plans work, which I will link up here. Now, once you know which pension plan you're on, you want to start making decisions on how much you want to contribute or save for your retirement. So if you are on option 2 or plan 2, this became the default plan just a couple of years ago. So I want to say in 2021, maybe the beginning of the 2020 school year, that's when plan 2 became a default. So if you're hired after that and you didn't choose anything else, you're going to be on what they call plan 2. If you're hired prior to that, or you voluntarily chose to go on plan 3, then you'll be on plan 3. So first thing, figure out what plan you're on. Next, you want to go look at your savings options. So if you're on plan 3, you have the option to choose to save anywhere from 5 to 15% of your pay per year. Whatever election you make is permanent unless you change employers. If you're on plan 2, you don't have a built-in savings component. You actually have to go out of your way to set up your own retirement account and pay into it. Okay, so now let's go look at what those other investments are. So if you're a school district employee, you basically have two other retirement options available to you. And that's what they call the Deferred Compensation Plan and the 403B plan. So the Deferred Compensation Plan, some people call it the DCP, is where you can save money on a pre-tax basis for your retirement. The money grows tax deferred and you pay taxes when you eventually pull the money out. It's flexible, so there's no open enrollment, start, stop, increase, decrease anytime you want to. The 403B is in a different tax code. It's pretty much the same thing as the DCP account. The main differences are you have to choose a private carrier, right? This is not done through the state, so you got to pick and choose a private carrier. There are annuity options, and then there are just mutual fund options, which are a little bit more accessible. They're all going to have different fee structures on them, but they do entitle you to taking things like hardship withdrawals, loans, as well as other investment options that don't exist in the DCP plan. So both of those are very good options that you want to explore. The next thing you want to do is you want to try to get a sense of what you think your taxes are going to be in retirement. You want to get a good idea of this because that can kind of be one helpful factor in determining if I want to go to do something called a Roth or if I want to go the pre-tax route. So sitting down and trying to figure out what you expect your retirement to look like. So everyone in Washington has Social Security, and then you're going to get a pension from the state if you get vested, and that's going to be a pre-tax dollar amount. So you're going to have to add that in there. And depending where your other assets are, if they're mostly pre-tax or Roth, for most people they're all pre-tax, all your distributions are going to be pre-tax as well. It's important to sit down and really determine, hey, do I want more of my income to be taxable in retirement, or do I want more of it to be tax-free? And if you're thinking, hey, I want to be more tax-free, then maybe going the Roth route is the best way to go. But chances are if you're starting late here in Washington State, you don't have a very big pension, or you're not going to accumulate a big one, most of your income is going to be Social Security, you get a little bit from the pension, and it's just going to be what you have saved. If you haven't saved a ton throughout your career to this point, then the Roth may not be the best option for you because you could be in a situation where you are making less in retirement than you are now and paying less taxes. So a tax analysis should be done, before choosing, pre-tax or Roth. If you need help with that, that's where advisors come into play. That's something that we help our clients with all the time. If you need help with that, there's a link in the description below to book a time in our calendar. Now, the next thing you want to look at is your healthcare options. As a teacher, you're going to be on the SEB, which is the School Employees Benefits Board. They have different kind of healthcare options for you. The main ones I want to highlight is that there's something called the high deductible plan. Now, it sounds scary because no one wants a high deductible, but what's unique about these ones is they're HSA eligible, which is your health savings account. So these plans are typically lower in premium, and they enable you to save more into these health savings account to help deal with future healthcare costs. And if you decide not to put money in the HSA account, the state will give you $375 per year into it as an individual. So one way to look at this is if I have my total annual premium in a high deductible plan minus what the state's given me, really my cost is less than what it appears to be in the grand scheme of things. So these high deductible or HSA eligible accounts are something you should consider, especially if you're fairly healthy, because it's going to entitle you to lower premiums. You have the HSA account available to save into, which does lower your taxes, by the way, and can come out tax-free to pay for healthcare costs, and the state actually gives you money for it. So it's just something to explore to see if it makes sense for you. Now, the next benefit you may or may not have is something called a VEBA, which is a Voluntary Employees Benefits Account. It's kind of like an HSA. These ones work more on a reimbursement basis, so you can't actually pay premiums with them. Instead, you'd pay out of pocket, and then you could take the money out of the VEBA. But the main reason I would bring VEBA up is, depending on your employer, some school districts will give VEBA to their employees and put money into it. They may give you $50 or $100 per month into this account. So while that's not money going directly into your pocket, it is good money that's put in this account to help pay for future healthcare costs. Money in the VEBA can be invested, so it can rise and fall depending on the investments that you choose. So now, there are some school districts that actually allow you to put money into it yourself. So if you have that option, you can even put money into the VEBA account on your own, just like you would in an HSA account. And there's really no limits to how much you can put into this VEBA account. Now lastly, the one that applies to most people is when you decide to separate service or retire, you're going to give the option to either cash out your sick leave and pay taxes on it all, or you can roll it into a VEBA account. Now, it's a 4-to-1 exchange, so you only get a quarter on the dollar, but the money that goes in there is tax-free, and you're now able to use it for any kind of future healthcare costs. So VEBA is a pretty good benefit. It's something you want to explore as well. All right, so for a quick recap, if you're starting here in Washington, you want to make sure you know which plan you're on, what your vesting options are. Then you can go ahead and determine how much you want to be saving and where you want to be saving to. Take a look at your taxes to try to get an idea of if pre-tax or Roth will going to make more sense for your situation, and then go ahead and open up your account as such. Now, if you're looking at how much should I be saving, a lot of people say 15% is the number you want to hit. That number is what they save if someone's in their 30s. If we're in our 50s and we don't have a whole lot saved, then saving more is always going to be a good idea. There's never been someone I run into that said they saved too much money for their retirement. It's often the opposite. So don't be afraid to put more money away if you have the means to do so. If you're currently paying off high interest debt, which I'd say is any interest over 5%, then you may want to defer some of your savings to kind of help take care of that. Because the less expenses you can have in retirement, the better, especially if they have high interest on them. When it comes to healthcare, make sure you look at all of the options available and what's going to work best for you. Don't shy away from something called a high deductible plan because it sounds expensive, because chances are it could be the right plan for you. If you have the option to save money to a VEBA, or your employer is putting money into VEBA on your behalf, that's a huge benefit, and it's something you may want to take advantage of. Now, throughout my career, I've seen a lot of people make money mistakes. So I just wrote a book called The 7 Money Learning Mistakes Washington Teachers Make. This is something you're going to want to check out, because I'm going to dive more into things such as taxes and all of your different benefits, so you can be well aware of what they are and the best ways to prepare for them. So if you want a copy of that, the link to download is in the description below. I'll see you guys next week. Remember that your future depends on what you do today.